So today I wanted to talk about million dollar thinking, right? And why your mind is the greatest asset ever. And no, it's not about, getting rich quick. It's not about getting rich quick. So million dollar thinking is way beyond, getting rich quick. It's way beyond, the success of monetary value, right? Mm-hmm. And million dollar thinking is something that's so far beyond the average thinking that this is not for the men that, are just going to listen to this and then never listen to it ever again. This is not for the women that are going to hear this message and say, that's right. This is not for, the families or the friends that hear this and say, he has a good point, and then they never remember this message, right? This is for the people who are listening, wanting to actually genuinely make a change, who want to genuinely think about something, right? This is for the people who want to see an uprise in their life, right? This is for the people who want to actually wake up. This is for the people who actually want to get out of that dream, right? We always speak about dreams, right? But dreams are actually when you're awake. We think that dreams only happen when you're asleep, which is why we all dream when we go to bed, right? But the true dream starts when you're awake and you can actually think about it. And that's what I'm talking about. If you understand what I'm saying, then you are one step closer to actually unlocking what I'm speaking of, right? And what I'm speaking about is something that has been hidden. And it's not hidden because you can't find it. It's hidden because we don't open the book anymore. It's hidden because we don't care to open the book anymore. We don't care to look for the source that gives us the power of wealth.
What's the book?
Right? I'm getting there. I'm getting there. We don't open the source that gives us the power to wealth anymore. Right? And not only do we not open that book of wealth, we also have every single day, you can see online, from TikTok to Instagram to YouTube, every single title has rich, success, right?
Luxury.
Mm-hmm. And we sit back and we want to speak about success, but we fail to open up the book that stores that power. Right? Not only that, we also want to be the people that we see at the top, right? From the, JP Morgan, the Rockefellers, the Andrew Carnegies, right? Mm-hmm. All of these men have the same thing in common, which is why they've stood the test of time, even when they've been long gone. Mm-hmm. They all have the same thing in common. Even Abraham Lincoln, all the greatest men that I've ever looked at have the same success story. And it's a very simple one. We just don't look at it that way because we don't actually study these men. The greatest men that have ever existed, even outside of, superpowers, outside of miracles, these men have followed something. They have followed a law. And we don't know this law anymore, which is why a lot of people are lost. And I want to get into that word now that I got your attention a little bit, which is, as a man thinketh, so is he. Mm-hmm. Every single man who has been successful has followed this law. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's a law. It's a very simple phrase that is in the Bible in Proverbs 23:7. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And this sentence alone is so powerful that if you were to just follow this sentence, you can change your life. If you truly actually understand this sentence. Most people will just read this sentence and think, if I think about something, then that's what it is.
Manifestation.
Yeah, exactly. Manifestation. Yeah. They think about it. They say, if I want a car, I'm gonna get a car.
Yeah.
But this sentence, this verse is way beyond that thought process. What this verse is breaking down is that if you truly think about something, it gets calculated from your thought to your heart. And because it gets calculated, and I have to dive in on that word, calculated, right? Because it's not just, quick. That's why I said get rich quick, right? You're calculating this thought so much so that it goes into your heart.
Right.
And that thought going into your heart changes you externally.
It gives you belief.
It gives you belief. And when you have that belief, you truly believe it, right? Then you can truly make a change. You can truly achieve it. You can truly see it. And when you can truly see it, believe it, touch it, feel it, then you can actually move one step forward, one step closer, jump the next level. And this verse is so powerful because it produces men and women that follow a law. Mm. And following a law keeps you from chaos. It keeps your mind centered. And you can only do two things. If you don't follow the law, then you can create chaos. And when you create chaos, you can create destruction. And if you can create destruction, you can create a damnation. And when you create a damnation, it's no point of return, right? And this is where we're starting to find ourselves going. We're starting to find ourselves in chaos, right? A lot of people feel that they're in chaos because they're not thinking. They're not thinking. They're not thinking. And they're not thinking because they're not truly understanding these words, right? It's a few different types of people in this world, and I actually listed them down so that way I would not misinform you guys. So we have the right mind, the sober mind, the sound mind, the spiritual mind, the anxious mind, the debased mind, and the carnal mind, right? And the right mind is a person who is in the state of mind of spiritual deliverance. And the sober mind is a person who is not distorted by anxieties and exaggerations. A sound mind is a person who has healthy thoughts. A spiritual mind is a person that is focused on spiritual realities. An anxious mind is one that is overtaken by anxiety and worry. A debased mind is a mind that has failed God's test and lost his approval. And last but not least, the seventh one is the carnal mind, where honestly I find most humanity lies. I truly believe that. I believe most humanity lies in the carnal mind. The carnal mind is the one that is preoccupied by earthly pleasures and literally often resisting spiritual priorities. And that's where I find most of humanity is in that seventh category of the carnal mind. And the reason why all these different types of minds are important is because we're talking about $1 million thinking. $1 million thinking. Why the mind is the greatest asset that you can ever have. This right here, I just broke down to you 7 different types of minds, let alone 7 different types of thinking, right? So if you have 7 different types of minds, right? And all those different minds can think differently towards those mindsets, right? If you have the right mind, that right mind has a plethora of categories that can lead that person to the right mind. So that means it's an infinite amount of possibilities just for the right mind. So multiply that times 7. You have billions of outcomes for these minds, which is why the mind is so great, because the mind can differentiate between all these different types and think about them differently just to get to the same answer. So I believe that people are speaking things into existence without actually thinking things into existence. What do I mean by that? What I mean is they have lost the true meaning of thought. They have lost the true meaning of thought. They're relying on their feelings, their hope, and their tries. And I just told you that in Proverbs 23:7, it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. It doesn't say as a man hopes. It doesn't say as a man feels. It doesn't say as a man tries. It says as a man thinks. And this is why we're falling into chaos, why we're falling short, why we're failing, because we don't think anymore. We only feel. And when you feel, you cause chaos. When you hope, you cause chaos. When you try, you cause chaos. Why? Because when you feel, you aren't thinking. When you hope, you're lost, which means you're not thinking. And when you try, you're only doing without thinking. There's a reason why it says think, because to put something into action, you have to think about it. You have to. It's impossible to do an action without thinking about it. And if you do, it's usually something chaotic. Right. Have you ever seen someone do something and they say, I didn't even think about it? Yeah. They usually have just done something chaotic.
Or overly emotional.
Exactly.
We even see people like almost to the detriment of their livelihood. Like they lose their freedom blacking out through anger or emotion or rage. And we hear that often. Like, I don't even know what happened. I just woke up and this happened. And that's clearly an extreme version of what you're talking about.
Exactly. And what I've come to find is that the people that follow this law, because like I said, this is ancient text. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Ancient text that comes directly from the Bible. We have failed to open up this book that gives us the source of power to wealth, the source of power to marriage, the source of power to friendship, the source of power to love, the source of power to joy. And that's the reason why we see now that humanity has hidden this from us. Why? Because if I can hide all of that power from you, then I can cause you to go off course.
To destroy yourself.
And if I can cause you to get off course, guess what I can do? I can change your destiny. I get to choose what your destiny is. So if I get to choose what your destiny is and I'm hiding something from you that has stood the test of time, from the JP Morgans, like I said, the Rockefellers, the people who created the first colleges, everything has been built on people who stood on law, which I like to use a term, son of law, right? Son of law means a person that falls under the authority of God. And we have gotten away from that because they are wanting to get us away from that. And they're wanting to hide that. Why? The reason that they're wanting to hide that is because if you are a person who stands on the law, a person who calls themselves the son of law, or for another term, the daughter of law, right? Then you're ungovernable. Why are you ungovernable? Because you have no fear.
You're not chasing the carrot.
Exactly. And you have no fear. But if you aren't a person that follows law, and I'm talking about a law that is above the humanity law. If you are a person who follows a law that's above humanity law, then the government cannot put fear into you, which if they can't put fear into you, they can't control you. And it leaves you also not only ungovernable, it leaves you unshaken. Meaning, even if they shake you down, they take you for everything you got. You know, you have nothing left, no money, no cars, no house. They could throw you in jail. That means you lack, meaning you have something without. Even if they do that, you still have your belief, which means they still cannot break you, which means you are left unshaken, right?
So the separating us from the law of God is separating us from power.
Exactly. Exactly. When you separate yourself from the law of God, you are separating people from power. And the people who think, even though it's an evil thinking, the people who think they know this, which is why they have hidden it from you. Because they're thinking, I can change your destiny, I can change your outcome, I could be your authority. And if I can be your authority, I can get you to do whatever I please.
You know what's crazy though? Like when you talk
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes 100% sense. And I was just going to elaborate. When you talk about them hiding the Bible from us, we don't mean literally.
No,
right?
not literally.
It's just so crazy because sometimes people will think hidden and it's like, well, there's a Bible in every dollar store. There's a Bible in every hotel room. There's a Bible at any church that you go to. You can go to the kiosk and grab a Bible. And the funny thing about it is we have so much, as human beings, we've all integrated in unity to find so much resistance to this text, right? To try to invalidate it or to try to condemn it or discredit it, right? Even though, like you said, it's withstood the test of time.
Yes.
But it's so funny, or not funny, it's actually shameful that we've gone out of our way so much to separate ourselves. They're hiding it from us, but it's through our own will. We've allowed it. You know what I'm saying? Like we've allowed ourselves to be separate. And yes, there might be convolution and things behind this junction to push us away from the Bible, but we've just voluntarily done it.
Yeah, but it's because it's hidden, but it's hidden in plain sight.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? So what you see has happened is they didn't just grab it and go, right? What they did was they said, hey, what if I give you this instead of this? Would you take $1 if I take this from you? Yes. Would you take $2 if I'm taking this from you? Yes. Okay, so they will take $1 and $2. If I took this away and gave you a hat, would you take it? Yes. If I took this away and gave you food stamps, would you take it? Yes. That's what we see is happening. We see that they're taking it, but giving us something in return, so it doesn't seem as if this is their agenda, right?
And it's less of the actual physical text and more of your internal your internal, you'll just give it away, right?
Yes.
Like my morals, my standards, what I believe in. If you give me something that's worth it to me, I'll give it away.
Yeah, it's what they're doing is, it's just psychology, right? If I give you the choice instead of making you, basically giving you a command or a demand, but if I give you the choice, even though the game is rigged, but I still make you make the choice, in your mind,
you've done that.
You haven't been cornered.
Yeah.
Right? So if I can rig the game and say, hey, make a choice out of this rigged game, and you make a choice out of the rigged game, you don't feel like you were backed into a wall and backed into a corner, so you don't feel defeated.
You don't feel like a victim.
Yes, you don't feel like a victim and you don't feel defeated. So you feel like, well, I made my decision, and
actually,
that's that.
You actually feel empowered.
Exactly.
You
because
actually feel like you were in charge.
Because you were the one that made the decision. Yes, and when you're the one that made the decision, you feel you're in charge. But really the one that was pulling the strings and said, hey, I want you to move a little bit to the left. You know, I'm going to put your favorite pop star on the left side. You're like, oh, I'm going to go that way. Got him. Or I said, hey, I'm gonna put your all's favorite liquor store back there. And you go back there. Got him.
And I can keep you all in this area.
Yes.
And I can keep you all under this influence.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's a really big blanket. Like They Clone Tyrone was not just a movie. You know what I'm saying? For real, because we laugh at those things. We laugh at the things that are portrayed in plain sight in our face, but we don't realize the severity of them telling us we do these things. Because the concepts are not just brought out of thin air. They exist in some way, shape, or form. And so people would call it conspiracy, but it's actually a very calculated strategy to separate you from God's will.
Yes.
And separating you from God's will makes you basically
a target. That's what it does.
It makes you vulnerable. It makes you a target, and it makes you susceptible to some of the most evil acts.
If you were to leave the law up to the likes of humanity, right, you will find that humanity will do what they want. The reason is because they've lost their thinking, they've lost their mind, right? This is why I go back, like I said, to the mindset. The mindset is the most important thing because it's the most powerful thing, and not only is it the most powerful, it's the source of everything, even your heart, right? Your mind, your brain powers everything. It powers everything. It powers your soul. You know, it powers your belief system. It powers your happiness. It powers your sadness. It powers your anxiety. It powers your worry. The thought process in the mind powers every single thing that you can think of. And that's the reason why it always starts there. If you are failing, think about why you're failing. If you have financial worries, think about why you have financial worries. Not if you do, because if you're thinking about it, you already know if you do or not. Not if you do. Think about why you do. Think about why you get angry. Think about why you get sad. Think about why you get happy. Think about why you have joy. Think about why you are depressed. And when you actually sit back and think about these things, or even ask the question, why? A lot of times we figure out that the reason why is because I didn't think about it. Truly. If you were to ask a person, why were you mad? A lot of times they'll say, I don't know. I just felt like it. That's not thinking, right? That's a feeling. That's a doing. You felt like it, so your feeling turned into an action, instead of a thinking turning into an action. If we start turning our thinking into actions, you will see different results. Whether it's your relationship, whether it's your career, whether it's, you know, the relationship with your parents, the relationship with your kids. If we sit back, stopped for a second, and thought about what we did before we did it, you will see a shift. And it's not to say that your shift has to be immediate, right? But it's a shift enough to say, I did the right thing. It's a shift enough to say, I got a promotion. It's a shift enough to say, I can start that business. It's a shift enough to say, I can go get myself that new car. It's a shift enough to make a change in your life that can get you a step forward. And if you can get a step forward, then that gets you out of that place that everyone feels at some point in their life, which is stagnant. The reason
it gives you hope and a way of a solution where you feel hopeless.
Yes. But the reason that you feel that hope is because you are actually thinking about a solution and not just doing something.
We're not just giving up.
Yes.
And just saying, I can't.
Yeah, exactly. So this verse, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. It's a calculated thinking internally, so that way you can change yourself, your outcomes, and your destiny externally. That's how you do this. This is how the people before us, during us, and after us became wealthy. And wealth could be a multitude of things. They became wealthy financially. They became wealthy spiritually. They became wealthy in relationships with their friends and peers. They became wealthy because they figured out that if I think about the things internally, it will change my outcomes externally. That is the honest truth. And we have failed to look at that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the depth of the words, right? Like, to take it for surface level, as a man thinketh, so be he. It's not just as simple as the short sentence. You know
exactly.
What I'm saying? There's so much depth and context to it. And the more you delve into it, the more authority and power you find within yourself.
Exactly.
You find that I can conquer things. God empowered me to, and therefore I should. You know?
Yes, exactly. And I'll say this, because a lot of people want to hear this, so I'm going to say it. If you desire truly to become wealthy, right?
In finances.
If you desire to become financially free, if you desire to become financially wealthy, it is going to be impossible to do that without becoming a son of law or a daughter of law. So you have to look to the authority who has given you the blueprint, dominion of this source, truly. Because it's only one of two ways you can get there. Either you do it with the authority of good, or you do it with the authority of evil. And there's two big differences in the two, right? The authority, I'll start with evil, actually, because the good it has the best scenario. So if you take the route of getting your wealth under the authority of evil, it's only a few things that can happen. Either you can get wealthy and have no longevity, or this is if you're lucky.
Yeah.
This is if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Or you can get rich and have consequences. And that's where you don't want to be.
And that's
the get rich on the evil side and they have no longevity, or get rich on the evil side and have consequences.
And that's why you see so many people in those areas talk about sacrifices and this and that. There are consequences to your actions. And it's not to say that anybody passing or anything is a sacrifice. I'm not reading into that, but I'm just saying, when you find detriment, when you find people committing suicide and being depressed and being like drug addicts and all of these things, because of they can't handle the fame or the wealth or whatever has come with their prayers, you see that those are consequences for the way you obtained it.
Yeah, exactly. And on the good side, you have two things that can happen. Mm-hmm. You get wealthy and you change your life, or you get rich and you change your destiny. What does this mean? There's two type of people on the good side. There's the person who is trying to be righteous, right? But he's doing it selfishly. And there's the person who's trying to be righteous. Both of them are trying. The second person is trying to be righteous, but he's doing it for others. And this is where you want to be. You want to be in the position that you are doing it for others, which is why you have seen the people who have come before us. Like I said, the biggest bank in the United States and one of the biggest banks in the world, JP Morgan, right? Mm-hmm. If you chase his lineage himself was a son of law. You can find evidence of him being a Christian. And the reason that he started this bank was for people who could not find their finances, for people who didn't know where their finances were, for people who lost it. Creating a bank made a system for people to store their money and did not lose it. This is a good thing. Mm-hmm. You're creating something. Did he have any idea that JP Morgan was going to be as big as it is now?
He never even seen it.
Probably not. But
to the caliber it is now.
He created something that has helped millions and billions of people, right? Mm-hmm. That is the reason why it has had longevity. Because, of course, we can always peel back layers and find something bad about this, something bad about that. But the overall picture of these banks, it started out good. And that's the reason why you have seen it stand the test of time, because it created something life-changing for the people to come. And that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Abraham Lincoln, another one. He changed the outcome of what we see today, right? Because he thought about something even in a time where, honestly, doing something that he did at the time he was in could get him killed, mm-hmm. right? Which we know the story of Abraham Lincoln. So him doing what he did stood the test of time, which is why we still learn about him today, because he thought about something outside of himself that could change the course of history. And this is what I'm speaking of. I'm speaking of thinking about things that can not just change your life, that can change others. And if you can think about a way to change other people's lives, you will be rewarded. Honest truth. Mm-hmm. It's no way, no how, because the God that we serve is so good. If you are serving his people, he will give you the reward for serving his people. That's the honest truth. And that's the reason why Napoleon Hill has died on a hill of saying that the wealthiest men were all men of law. The men who built this country,
Andrew Carnegie,
were all men of law.
Ford,
all of them, mm-hmm. all of the ones that you can name that have stood the test of time were all men of law. And that's what I'm saying. We want to figure out how to get wealthy, but we're not opening up the source. We want to learn how to be successful, but we forget to turn to the page that has the power of it.
Mm-hmm. The blueprint.
That's what I'm saying. That's it. You guys are missing the blueprint. Open that Bible.
Open your Bible and change your life.
Yes.
And get you some money.
Yep.
Is that all you got for him today?
That's it.
He dropped that knowledge on y'all. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. We hope that you gained something from this message. And if you did, please interact with the post. Drop a comment. And we'll see you guys in the next one.